Howdy folks, welcome to my room. I'm about to do a tasting on a lager which has been fermented using a Pilsner yeast, quality Pilsner yeast, and Oslo Kviek yeast, and comparing the differences in how they taste. Before I do that, I want to quickly just show something. I don't know what's going to come up on camera. I'm hoping it does show up. Now this batch, there's been no video on this previously. I'll explain shortly, but I want to do this quickly. These are the two bottles. Now this batch was bottled, I went to keg on, I've not written here, it was the 18th of September, so a bit over a month ago. The 14th of this month, I took it from the kegs, put it in the bottles, and it's been in the fridge since. Now, so they've been in the fridge for 9 days. And this is the bottle that's had the Pilsner yeast. It's dropped out reasonably clear. And this is the Kviek, the Oslo, and I don't know if it's showing up there, but there's this clear bit of beer here in the top, this at the top of it, and the rest of it's got this hanging, suspended cloudiness. And when you move the bottle around, you can see it moving around with the liquid. I don't know where it's showing up. So we shouldn't, that is going to just all stir up and coming into the beer, but it's clearly certainly good indication that the that Oslo at the very least, it takes a lot longer to drop out, which straight up is to me is some sort of negative for its case for being used, because you're brewing a lager or a Pilsner, you want it clean and clear. But anyway, so I'm going to get these fellas into the glasses. While I'm doing that, I'm going to give a quick shout out to all Little John's Patreons. As always, thank you for your support, guys. Links down the bottom if you're interested in seeing what Patreon's about and whether it's something you might be interested in. Also, if you're a subscriber, thank you very much. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button down there in the corner. And while you're down that general direction, hit the thumbs up, give us a like. Okay, so there they are. Pilsner yeast, she's poured. There's just a little bit of stuff in suspension there. We'll cut in the bottom. Obviously not going to be much, I think, come off the keg. Hadn't been in the keg for a super long time. And it's running a nice carbonation as well, so the bottling process hasn't hurt any. So, here we go. And there's our Oslo, and she's very different looking. So whack, there's a bit of crowd on the bottom of the bottle, and there's actually quite a bit more than Pilsner yeast. Anyway, so let's have a quick talk about what the beer was. It was the base was a Morgan's Blue Mountain Lager. I did initially brew this. It was part of a recipe of the month experiment. I'm playing around for the Patreons. I changed tact on it, but anyway. So Morgan's Blue Mountains Lager was done with 800 grams of Dex, 400 grams of light dry malt, and a small steep of Citra added to it. It was then split. Half has been done with WLP 800, which is White Labs Pilsner yeast, Don't know exactly which Pilsner strain. Not sure, look it up. And the other half has been done with the Oslo Kviek. I made a small starter out of some dried flakes I had of that made in the fridge. Pilsner has been fermented at 9.8 degrees in the fermentation fridge, controlled the whole way through. Kviek has been done at 25 degrees in the fridge, so higher temperature, replicating some degree, a brewer's garage, have the warmer months of the year with the temperatures up a little bit, seeing how it goes handling those sort of temps, because that's where the Kviek is being pitched. That's a terrible, pardon the pun, as they say, but that's where people are saying to use it. When your garage is too warm to be brewing with normal yeast, get the Kviek out, everyone say. Now, I've never used the Oslo before. This is my first time using it. I have tried a couple of beers now that have had Oslo in them, or reported to have Oslo in them. Those beers were quite nice. None of them were a lager though. One's an IPA, and that is the Bondi Brewing, which I'm fairly confident is Oslo yeast, and it's an old school IPA, West Coast IPA. Another one was an Urban Alley, and I can't remember the actual brew, but it was an ale using, they didn't state Oslo. Contact from the brewer down there said it was a Kviek strain that wasn't commercial, that wasn't readily available outside of commercial brewing, but they stated that the Oslo would be the closest commercially available. So this is going off just what gets bantered around. I will be doing experiments going forward using Lutra, which is touted as a very apt replacement for lager yeast at those higher temperatures. So that's coming in the future. But this is where we're starting today. So this beer is currently about 5 weeks old. So it's had a decent amount of time to sort of condition and develop its flavours. So, as I said, different straight up, Pilsner clear, Kviek not. As I said, it was dropping, and in all honesty, the bit that was, that little bit at the top of the neck where it had cleared, was clearer than the Pilsner. But if that's sitting in a keg and you're draining off, then you're not getting clear beer anywhere near it at the moment. So from that point, it certainly fails. And generally, you're making a lager or a Pilsner, you want it to look like a lager or a Pilsner. Okay, nose wise, that's much cleaner. There is a nose on that. Hard to put my finger on exactly what it is, but it's sort of fruity tinged, not sort of citrus note or anything, but it's definitely not as enticing as this is. No, let's get into this fella. Okay. that's pretty much exactly what you expect from a kit lager, and a good Pilsner yeast. Crisp, cleanish. There's a little bit of kick twang in underlying beer, but the beer is clean. There's no estery notes or any, no apparent flavours coming from the yeast. For the most part, that beer, for its flavour, its body, its mouthfeel, is classic lager / Pilsner. Exactly what you'd be expecting to get. And once again, I've said it before, that Blue Mountain kit does makes a reasonably good beer. Let's go this side. It's not holding anywhere near the head. It's a bit flimsy. Carbonation's alright in there. It's hard to see because it's not clear, but it certainly seems to be alright. There's certainly carbonation in there. It's just got that. It's not a pleasant nose. I don't want that overtaking the tasting. Okay. Now, I did taste these about 2 weeks in the keg. And I'm getting the same sort of effect now as I did then. That smell comes through a little bit in the flavour, but for the most part there's not any real distinct yeast notes. Certainly like what you get, I've certainly picked up with using Voss, where there is deep yeast induced flavours from that. This doesn't have a massive amount. There is just that little edge there that's got a character that's clearly not in the other one, but the overall beer it's drinkable. It's nice enough, but it's not lager. Has it made a reasonable beer? Got to say, argument-wise, I'm pretty confident that if I was to brew this beer at 25 degrees, I think this beer would be a clear win. Would be a winner. I think the Pilsner yeast in this environment is not going to work. Just as really, I can't say, the Kviek yeast in the Pilsner's environment, well, it's not in the Pilsner's environment, in its own environment, doesn't work. It doesn't produce the clean, crisp finish that you require from a lager or a Pilsner. well, it's not, it's just got that little bit of edge there, and some of that's kick twang, and I think just that little bit, it's just sort of, it's grouping with that kick twang and just emphasising that just a little bit more than what it does here. But it's not making the same crispy, clean beer. That is a clear winner between these two beers. But I certainly can't write this Oslo off as a yeast on its own. I think it's definitely got some worthwhile factors. As I said, if you haven't got temperature control and you can't get your temperature down into a comfortable range for lager yeast or even for an ale yeast, I think you're better off with that. But if you're using, say, an A5 at the same temperature, 25 degrees, I think that's going to win. I think that's going to be hands down better. Yeah, A5 is generally going to throw some pretty ragged flavours at that sort of temperature. So I certainly do think there's got some credence to be used in the right environment, and that right environment is when you can't use something else. I certainly can't say that using that instead of a lager yeast is an option. If you want to brew a lager, brew it at, get a lager yeast, brew it at lager temperatures. Yeah, take a little bit longer. The reality of this one was that this finished probably maybe 3 days before this did. And that was it, 3 days. Total ferment, it was 14 days. 14 days from brew day to going in the keg. That's inclusive of a cold crash. That could possibly have gone to the keg. Could have gone to the keg possibly 4 days early. But at that point it would only just finished and still had another cold crash. So really not a lot of difference temperature wise. Granted, the lager was ramped up from day 5 to 13, and then 2 days later on day 7 to 16. Yeah, and left there. So it was manipulated a little bit, but not excessively. So you're not getting a big advantage by going, I'm going to use Kviek. For me, extra 3 or 4 days in the fermenter to get a cleaner, more style correct beer, it's fucking no brainer. Simple clear winner. And I said, I think that's a yeast that will work in most ales without too much trouble. Something a little bit more, with more flavour, with more malt depth, with more hop flavour going on, where you're not going to notice that little bit of ester that is there, where it's even going to work a little bit with the flavours you're adding. I think that could be quite good, and it could be something worth looking at down the track, doing a comparison. Like I said, I certainly think at the same temperature, I think that's going to win out. I think that could be an experiment for the middle of summer, a side by side here on the garage floor, when the garage, when the brew cave is sitting you know, on 23 or 24 degrees at ambient, and see which one produces a better beer, because I would not be at all surprised if that was a winner in that scenario. So going to wrap this one up. If you want to brew a lager properly, do it the proper way. I've tried all these different experiments and using different yeasts at different temperatures, higher temperatures, trying to rush things through and avoiding temperature control, and every time you get a beer that's drinkable but never as good as the real thing. And that doesn't surprise me at all, not one little bit. But yeah, it's individual. Try things if you want. Yeah, some people are going to like it. But, I mean, for me, that's just, you got to look at it and go which one you want. Simple. Anyway, questions, comments down the bottom. Are you using Kviek? If you used Oslo, I know a lot of people haven't used it. It's not quite as readily available as other Kviek strains. I sort of had to get it dry from. I think I've mentioned Richard Glover before on lives and stuff, and it's just occurred to me just then that it didn't come from Richard Glover. It come from somewhere else, and I can't think now who it was, because I wouldn't even be able to find it now, because it's been a while since I bought it. But yeah, could be worth trying. Have you used it? If you have, let us know your experiences down the bottom. Again, yeah, thank you to all the Patreons for their support on the channel. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Thumbs up, all that stuff. But anyway, that's me, Little John. Oslo versus Pils Lager. Done. So until I see you again, we're brewing beer, drinking beer, we talking beer. Good brewing.